Hey, DukaRoo, it's Michael Jullian. How you doing, brother?
Miguelito, what's happening, my man?
Oh, hanging in there, hanging in there. How about you?
Fantastic, man. Beautiful day in Denver.
Beautiful day in Denver in quarantine.
Yeah, yeah, it's getting weird out there, but it's cool in here.
Right on, right on. Well, tell me a little bit, before we get started here and let
How are
folks
things
know
out
what
of
the
Costa? How are things
video cast is going to be about and what we're actually doing, with this thing. Um, well, in answer to your question first, I heard your question there and I was talking.
right up?
Uh, Things are what they are here. It's definitely a hot and beautiful day in central Costa Rica and Jaco, but it is very strange out there. It is a ghost town. Beaches are closed. The whole town is basically closed, and everybody is in a lockdown situation now that they've raised some rules and regs. So a little
In,
bit less mobility during the week. How about you there, man? What are you going through?
you're in late summer down there, and we're in like the beginnings of spring, late winter, early spring.
Right.
So that's the sun's shining. When we get these days in Denver, it ends up being probably about 70 degrees. You can go out and get a sunburn if you want, and then if the clouds come in, you're gonna freeze your ass off.
Right, right.
A little bit of a little bit of everything, but yeah, take what we can get at this point, especially weather-wise. And if it's gonna be, days like today when we're all quarantined, it's a nice day. I'm thankful I got a backyard that I can go lay out in, or I can go across the street to the park and have a beach day with the dogs if I need to. So that's pretty cool, but
Yeah,
pretty fortunate in that regard.
that's a blessing. That's a blessing.
Totally.
All right, well, let's tell folks what we're doing here, man. The fact that we have this video cast, vlog, and podcast happening now on Live It Stoked. And for those of you who are just tuning in and want to know what the project is about, I have created a podcast called One that is hosted by and on liveitstoked.com out there on the web for those of you who are knowledgeable. For those of you who are not, I am someone who started a website about 6 years ago about the power of positive thinking and how to create stoked energy to overcome life's obstacles and challenges. And especially with the circumstances today in terms of COVID, all of us being in quarantine and the world kind of being in freeze and on hold right now for most of us socially and otherwise economically. I thought it'd be a fantastic time to host a vlog and new podcast called One that serves as a beneficial platform of listening and information and data out there to people to improve your mental, physical, and spiritual well-being, and to just talk about subjects that are rad and cool and can inspire and do some story sharing with those across the world and people who are part of the LIS community. So that's what we're up to. Would you agree with that? Did I do that okay?
100%. You got to be stoked. You got to be happy. You got to get the positivity roll in some direction, and that's what gets you through tough times like this, or just keeps everything positive and moving in the right direction. You gotta have something positive to focus on. If you're excited about something, it's not going to be painful. It's going to be
Right,
awesome.
right.
So yeah, got to keep that stoke up. Got to keep the excitement alive.
Absolutely. I mean, right now it's so easy to let stress become toxic, reach toxic levels right now, and to let that fortitude, kind of fall into the background about trying to push forward and create stoked energy every day. So right on, man. So for those of you watching the video cast too, and our introduction in our first one here, wanted to introduce you to DukaRoo. DukaRoo is an amazing human being and a good guy, and my co-host here on One. And we thought we would say hey on the dual camera view so that you guys can get an idea of how
Handsome we are.
we met. Yeah, handsome we are. I like that. I like that as well. I'm sure there's some people who might disagree on my side of the screen, but
You know, we'll be
uh,
good.
my co-host competition is kind of tough right now. I
Oh,
have to
come on, you're a
live
stud mom.
up.
Get out of here.
And
Speaking
but yeah,
of,
I thought it'd be really cool if we just talked a little bit. I know last time we got ready to set this thing up, we were talking about the good old days and how we met and whatnot, and then how you became aware of what I was doing when I was coming out of my surgeries. And so tell folks the doodle of doots about Live It Stoked and you and I meeting.
oh,
Remember?
the all started at the Carne Christmas kegger. A few of our mutual good friends, the Picards, Chris and Andy. Picard were having a party in Manchester, New Hampshire, which is right outside the town that I grew up in, and he had just bought a house, and they're having a big bonfire out back, and of course we're gonna go over there and around Christmas time and kick it with our friends, and keeping an old tradition of ours, the Kelly Christmas kegger, alive. And so we get there, there's a big bonfire, everybody's hanging out, and sitting at the kitchen table, I meet this guy. I think you were even wearing like a leather jacket. You had the style, dude. Like you were just dialed. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? This guy's rad. And that was the beginning of me thinking you were rad, because all of a sudden when we started to getting talking, we were just tractor beam like, wow, there is a lot of similarities between the way you think and the way that I think.
Yeah.
And you started telling me about what you were doing and Live It Stoked. I think it was that night, I believe it was that night, where you're like, you are a prime example of what I'm doing right now, which is Live It Stoked.
Right on. Absolutely. 100%.
You're like, I think as we started to get further into conversation, like, do you know what I mean when I like, you've obviously never seen any of my videos or anything, but could you understand what I'm saying about like by Live It Stoked? And I'm like, yeah, I have a really good idea. I gave you an example of one time where I was finding myself in a low energy. I found myself doing extraordinary things while I'm excited. And all of a sudden that excitement drops and you realize, man, you're missing excitement. That stoke is low. Everything turns into work. But if you can find a way to get that stoke back up, you can live it stoked. Everything's going to be much easier and much more fluid and much happier place to be than slogging through something that's not exciting. So to find a way to create stoked energy and that excitement in your life will make a situation that is much more palatable for you and the people that surround you and have to deal with you. So that's what I got out of that conversation, and a guy that, like, basically something that I had learned along the way, picked up along the way. You were creating a video series and introducing people to these people that have found, introducing a community to these people that have figured out a way to live it stoked. And through these interviews,
that's right.
It was, just very special stuff when you find a guy like this in the world.
Come on. All good, man.
But
over here, this one.
You're over there, yeah, wherever you are, wherever you're in Hako right now. But when you find a guy like that who's creating an interview series based upon something that you've learned in your life, it was very, very powerful stuff. And coming from a powerful subject, it spoke to me, man. And I want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, blessings, man. Thank you and gratitude to you. Cheers, mate. But yeah, I mean, I really wanted to do something. And, the whole thing about shattering my neck and having the open heart surgery so close together, having life shut down completely. I mean, a lot of what I'm going through personally right now here in Hako, in terms of quarantine and COVID and dealing with that situation, I'm kind of back in my old way. I mean, I was in quarantine, here I was with the neck brace on. I've got a plasty on. I can't work. I can't really sleep. I can't, and I'm a musician. Many people know that. And, I was a surfer, a skate. I'm a freestylist. I'm a painter. I love activity, period. And of course, none of that was possible. Like, wow, do I have enough strength and can I take this much pain just to roll off a bed slowly and crawl across a floor to use a bathroom? It was hardcore. And at the time, my partner, who is now my ex-wife, but my wife at the time, was a hairstylist and, worked very long hours and was trying her best to support us through this time because my end of the book had shut down. And it had shut down a good amount of time before that too, because I was shattered and I wasn't seeking help at the time. And so anyway, the idea of what to do with oneself became a core focus every day because that's what hit. You know, the pain is there and I'm refusing to take painkillers. I do not believe in opioid at all. And for those of you watching, we're going to be talking a lot about that, that subject in terms of better mental and physical health. And for anybody who is suffering in terms of opioid addiction, I'm going to be doing some pieces on that. But, you know, for me, I've always been highly, highly against the ingestion of any painkillers of any kind based on what they do to the brain. You know, they're not really helping anything other than just shutting off receptors in the brain, and you become addicted, you know, period. And being a kid who used to like to break his bones and sprain things and break his bones again, doing, you know, radical things from time to time, I
Oh,
would, you know, be banged up a lot and never ever took them. So anyway, with that said, you know, what do I do with myself? And then I came up with the brainstorm to do It Stoked, and that's what, you know, led to me interviewing. I reached out to the surfer community first, based on the fact that as surfers, we all know or have had a moment in our time in the water where your time could have been just now, you know, either in a big hold down or, you know, whatever the story is. But as surfers, we risk our lives all the time. You know, we know what it's like to try to be in that ultra clear moment in terms of the now and your moment in the water with the wave, and, you know, to try to make sure you're as safe as possible when you're doing this as well. And so many people have gone through just their well, the community that I reached out to, you know, we're also sharing stories about just their personal overcome, whether it had been addiction, near death experience, maybe they had lost someone else to death prematurely, whatever the case may be, whatever the obstacle or the challenge was. So that was really the focus of it, and that's what led to the folks that are on the interview series that you see if you go to the site. You know, Robert August of Endless Summer, and
highly recommended.
Tom Carroll, three-time Pipeline Masters champion, Ian Walsh, who is a Red Bull big wave rider and XXL champion, and Bruce Irons, Tony Alva, Stephen Van Doren, the owner of Vans, and so on. But was also trying to convey a message that far spans out of sport. And I try to convey that as best I could in my little homemade project called It Stoked when I started, which was I wanted to provide a message that got us to share stories around the world about overcome, and that the path of that overcome and the success of that overcome, whatever it was for that individual, was based on the process and practice of a system of positive thinking. How we actually can move into an old problem in a 24-hour period succeeding the yesterday. You know, we're in our tomorrow, we're in the moment. How do we move forward with positive change based on how we're breathing, how we're thinking, how we're tending to our nervous system, how we're attending to our emotions, what our intentions are throughout the course of that day, to incrementally do stair by stair until we've actually got out of this. You know, we've reached success with overcoming an obstacle. That was basically the deal. So yeah, it was a magical time when I met you, man, because of course I, you know, was just coming off of some of those interviews. The thing was brand new, and the reality is I should have never been hanging out with you. I should have been home with the neck brace on.
You look good, man. I wouldn't have known any different. You were solid. All of our conversation was solid. Everything that came out of those conversations they stuck with me. A lot of that stuff did. And that's why we remain in contact. And that's why we've had so many beautiful conversations between here and there.